What is going on, guys? Welcome to Factorio. I'm actually on a sandbox world right now because I just wanted to go over a couple of things about armor that I think are very helpful, particularly once you get into power armor, past modular armor and stuff. I think it's pretty helpful to have at least 3 different sets of armor. So starting out early in the game, I find it extremely rewarding to start unlocking all the different types of armor. The first couple, light armor, heavy armor, they help a little bit. I don't use them very often, but once you get into modular armor, you start unlocking equipment grids, and I think that's one of my favorite parts about this game is just getting armor together. Power armor, you start unlocking larger equipment grids. So over here, I have a modular armor and a power armor laid out kind of the way I usually do it early game, with a few solar panels, a couple of batteries, and I think the batteries are extremely helpful. Of course, you can have more solar panels if you want, but the batteries I find helpful because they save up a buffer, because a lot of the time you're not running around, so you have that buffer available to you, especially when it gets dark out. So for modular armor, there's really no point in having more than one, just because you're going to eventually upgrade to power armor pretty soon after modular armor. So usually with modular armor, I like to throw a couple of exoskeletons in right off the bat, because starting out, your character runs so slow. But once you unlock at least modular armor and get that thrown in, it definitely speeds things up quite a bit. And I find that very, very helpful. Now later on, once you unlock power armor, you can add a couple more things. Usually I'll go with something like this, a little bit more solar panels, more batteries, maybe an energy shield. You could throw a basic roboport in there if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be laid out like this. You can obviously tweak it quite a bit. 3 exoskeletons instead of 2, like the modular armor, and that's going to be even faster than the modular armor. Not by a lot. You can actually see the modular armor has a 60% movement bonus. Power armor, I believe, is 90. And then once you get into the next tier, Power Armor Mark II, and this is the last one that you can unlock before you go to Fulgora, where you will unlock the Mech armor. And something that I find helpful, and to each their own, obviously you don't have to do it this way, but maybe you haven't thought of doing this before and that might be helpful to you, is I like to have 3 of them. So for one of my suits, I'll have kind of a traveling layout, which is pretty much just exoskeletons, as many exoskeletons as I can fit in it, and a portable fission reactor, which you need nuclear to unlock. Of course, you don't have to have that. Maybe you're going to unlock Power Armor Mark II before you even start nuclear. Throw some solar panels in there. Same thing, you got the batteries to buffer it. They might drain quite a bit faster than if you had a fission reactor, but either way, it works. And you can throw more batteries up here instead of having the tool belts. So Power Armor Mark II with 8 exoskeletons, you're looking at 240% movement speed, which is really decent. It really is pretty good. I mean, you don't have to go much faster than this up to mid game, at least. Once you have like a massive base, you might want to go faster, but which is where having more than one set of armor comes in handy. And another one, so you got the traveler armor, I guess you can call it. Another one I like to do is for building and stuff like that, especially if you don't have roboports all throughout your base. Maybe you're using your character to do all the building. The nice thing about this game is that there's no right or wrong way to play. This is just what I like to do. So with this one, I got it loaded up with a bunch of roboports. I can have up to 100 robots on this one. This one has 2 portable fission reactors because the roboports take a ton of power, especially when the robots have to start charging. So again, lots of batteries, and I like to have a belt immunity upgrade, especially if you're building around the base. You don't want belts pushing you around. So that's 2 of them so far, a traveler, builder, and another one that I like to do is for fighting, biters and whatnot. So this one, really similar, fission reactor, lots of batteries, a couple of exoskeletons because you don't want to be super slow trying to run away from biters, and then some energy shields and a whole bunch of personal laser defense. I like using those. And that's pretty much going to be, it's going to be the same for all of my other armors, the mech armor. So like mech armor here, if we look back on my traveler one for the Mark II, is I had the 1 fission reactor, some batteries, and exoskeletons. For the mech armor, I can just load the whole thing up with exoskeletons and 2 fusion reactors, which you will need to go to Aquilo, I believe, to unlock those ones. So obviously, you can have fission reactors, the nuclear ones, in here. It doesn't have to be fusion. And with this setup, I don't need batteries because it's purely exoskeletons. Each fusion reactor provides 2.5 megawatts. Each exoskeleton uses 200 kilowatts. So 10 of these is 2 megawatts. So even 1 fusion reactor, I think you can get away with 5. Nope, not quite. So with this layout, I won't ever run out of power. And it is pretty quick. It's not too bad. And the mech armor is nice because you can hop over water, lava, everything. Trees aren't an obstacle. You pretty much glide over everything, which is very nice. That's the mech armor traveler edition, I guess. Same thing for fighting and defense. I'm going to have a bunch of laser turrets, a few exoskeletons, and Mark III energy shields on this one with a fusion reactor. And I think it's actually 1 less laser defense than my Mark II one, but that's because I have 3 exoskeletons instead of 2. So again, you can tweak these around as much as you want. And then the last one for the mech armor is my building or roboport. And yeah, you can tweak this, knock out these top 3 roboports and put utility belts in if you want to have more inventory, because as you can see, the inventory is not very big with this one. And with the Mark II roboports, you can have 25 robots instead of 10. So with this one, I can have a max of 300 bots running on it. And I have lots of batteries, Mark III, on here because, again, even with 2 fusion reactors and all of those batteries, if you're doing a lot of building, it's still going to drain it down pretty quickly. Which we can take a look at this guy right here. But as you can see, builds it pretty quick. And yeah, leave a like. Don't forget. It's very helpful and I appreciate it. But if we deconstruct it, when the robots are all charging, you can see that it is dipping a little bit. Drop down to 98% and it'll charge back up. So if you're constantly building and deconstructing, you're going to drain it down pretty quick. And then, way later on in the game, you will get to legendary quality items, and holy, these are insanely overpowered. So if we look at just the regular mech armor with no quality whatsoever, the movement bonus is 330%, which was pretty quick. And we'll throw it back on. You can see it's pretty quick. That's a very comfortable speed to be running around your base. However, when you put the legendary version on, which has a massive inventory as well, then that's just nuts. That's literally the only thing you can use this for is traveling long distances, because that is just way too fast. You can't, make small movements to do anything. The thing is just insane. But it's good for traveling long distances. And then same deal, you have the building version, which I also have lots of exoskeletons on it. So with legendary, with the large equipment grid and just how overkill these things are, you really could, you could comfortably get around with just using the 1 armor. And a lot of times that's probably what I'm going to do. I haven't gotten to the stage in any of my survival games so far where I have legendary everything, but even with, you know, this set of armor, that's still really fast. And tons of roboports. This one, you can have just under 1,000 construction bots. That's wild. And then the shielded singularities, and same thing, you can put fusion reactors in here, because these are definitely pretty expensive to get. Tons of tool belts, even a couple energy shields. I mean, this is kind of a mix of all three of them, aside from it doesn't have lasers. But it'll do some building, and it'll do it quick. Just like that. Another reminder, subscribe if you want to see more. Also helps me out a bunch. And then you can go ahead and just deconstruct. And it takes care of it quickly. Even with the singularities, you're still going to be draining the batteries a little bit. It's just, that's how roboports are. They're incredibly expensive with power. And I mean, you could take out these two sections of batteries and throw a third singularity, and each singularity is making 25 megawatts. Legendary, of course. And just one of these roboports consumes 22, so yeah, you definitely need batteries on this one. Alright, so that covers the building ones. Now, how about, let's go take a look. Let's take a look at, so we're going to go back to our Power Armor Mark II fighting version, I guess. Actually, first I'll just throw one of the traveling ones on. On this world, I have a whole bunch of biters on the outskirts somewhere. And so we can go ahead and test out the different armors and see what they do. Alright, so there's some here. Small one. Well, actually, there's no evolution. And I think on this world I have laser damage 15, which is not incredibly high. Let's switch. Let's start with the Power Armor Mark II. We'll go run around these guys, see how it works. Pretty much vaporizes them. Alright, so we got some more right here. Quite a bit bigger nest. Same thing, it's gonna take these guys out pretty easily, but that's also because there's no medium or big fighters and spitters. But these nests are, however, a lot bigger than they normally would be. Yeah. Mark II armor does pretty well. The spitter's spit still slows you down quite a bit. So let's go ahead and throw on the mech armor version. It's probably going to be very, very similar because it has one less laser. So just standing here, the small worms don't really do anything. You can see the energy shield flickering a little bit, but that's nothing. Let's go ahead and throw on the legendary version, which is going to probably be quite insane, quite powerful. And with all the extras, with the extra exoskeletons on this one, you have lots of speed, so you can push through the spitters a lot easier. Let's go up here. Yeah, see, this nest is a little bit wild. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I'd like to do, is just have a nice armor set that has lots of laser damage, shields, and later on in the game it just makes clearing nests a lot easier. Than you can also still have the follower robots to do even more damage, and then you have the lasers to kind of watch your back as you're working through. So yeah, kind of a shorter video. I just wanted to go over the different armors and kind of what I do and why I think it's a good idea to have, you know, 2 or 3 sets of the same kind of armor. That way you can just swap them around 'Cause one thing I feel like before, back on 1.0, before Space Age came out, is I could have swore, you have your armor equipped and you have your batteries charged. I might be remembering wrong, but I thought before if you took it off and swapped it, you lost the charge. Maybe I'm wrong, but if that is the case, then now it's so much easier. You can just swap them. So easy, and it keeps the charge. Put your fighting suit on, and you can see the power did start to drop quite a bit on this one because the shields and the laser defense are going to also draw a lot of power. So again, later on upgrade to a fusion reactor, upgrade to Mark III batteries, and it all makes a difference. You can mess around with it, customize it the way it works for you, and once you find that good balance on your armor, make another set. Make a set with roboports, and so you have your construction armor, your travel armor, and your fighting armor. So yeah, if you guys found this video helpful in any sort of way, if you have any comments, ideas, suggestions, anything, just let me know. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, and I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a fantastic day.